Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. So in this video today we are going to create a node.js and MongoDB application which will connect with the MongoDB database, and we are going to implement all the CRUD operations in that. First we will create a database and collection on the MongoDB side, and next we are going to create a node.js server through which we are going to connect with the MongoDB database, and we will achieve all the CRUD operations. We are going to implement CRUD operations on the Node.js server side, and we are going to see all those executing on the MongoDB side. And in order to test, we are going to use the postman. So let us start with by creating a database and collection on the MongoDB side. So to create a database and collection, we are going to use MongoDBCompass, which is a graphical user interface for MongoDB. You can use MongoDBCompass or command line interface, which is a mongoose shell. Either option will do fine. We are using MongoDBCompass in this video, and these are the default databases like admin, config, and local. Now, if you want to create a new database, we can simply click on this plus button and mention our database name. Let's say it's a profile underscore master, and we can mention the collection name. It's a profile, and we can click on create database button. We can see the profile underscore master database is created successfully with profiles collection. Right now the collection is empty because we have not added any document in that. So let us create the node.js application next. We can create a VS Code instance. Open the VS Code instance. Now here we can create one product, one folder with name as a profile underscore server. Go to this folder. Right now we can see the folder is empty. Now here we can initialize it using command ntf init -y, and you can see the package.json is created. Now we can install all the modules or dependencies which we require to create this application. We require Express framework, course, Node.js, and mongoose module. We can install it one go. So Express is a Node.js backend framework which will help to ease our development. Next, Node.1 will keep a track of updated code, and we do not need to rebuild our application. With mongoose, we can connect with our database, MongoDB database. We can see all the dependency are added as expected. Now let us create one new file inside our project folder with name server.js, and inside this server.js, what all things we are going to create. Like first we are going to create a server, and next we are going to create a database connection for MongoDB. We can say establish a MongoDB connection. Next we are going to create a model, and finally we are going to create a router in which we are going to implement all the CRUD operations and APIs. So we can either add everything in a single file which is server.js, or we can create separate folders, and in that we can add respective files. So let us create separate folders. Like first, for the database connection, we can create a DB folder, and for next, like we can create a model folder, and we need one more folder as routes. Fine, we have created all the required folders. Now let us create the respective component within that. First, for database we can create db.js. Inside that we can add the respective items. So next, in model we can create a new file with name as an profile.js, and we have routes in which we can create our routes.js. Fine. Now come back to the server.js. Here we can create our server first, and here we are creating the server in the same file, and we can import all the required modules or dependencies. We can use require, we need express framework, course we require course. Next we can define one constant for app. Next we require mongoose to connect with mongoose database. Next we require body parser. Next we can define one constant for port, like we can take port from environment, or we can specify a particular port, let's say 3000. Next thing, like our app should use course, and next express.json. Next our app should use body parser dot URL encoded, and here we can mention extended as a true. Next, so we have added the required module set here, and our application is going to use that. Next thing, like we can write we can write the listen method, which will be listening to port, and here we can log the message which will get printed on successful when the server is running successful. Server is running on port, and here we can mention the port number. Fine. Complete this. Now we have created the server.js, and this is the server we have created. Now we need to point this server.js into our package.json, because we are using index, and index file is already there, but we are not using the index. We need to mention server.js, and here we can use add start, and here we can add node.js and server.js. This command we need to add and complete the statement. Fine. Now next thing, like we can save it, and let us check by running our application by using command npm start. Okay, so the process is, here is the spelling mistake. Fine. Now you can see our server is running on port 3000, which is as expected. Now let us create a database connection in db.js. Here we can add one constant for mongoose, and here we need mongoose collection, mongoose module. Next we can create one database constant, and here we can call mongoose.connect, and here we can mention our URL, which is MongoDB, and here we can mention localhost and port number 27017. If you want to cross check, you can go to the MongoDB database, and here is the port which is 27017. Same we need to add it here. And next thing, we can mention our database, which is profile underscore master in our case, and here you can cross verify the database name, it's a profile underscore master. Fine. Next, then you can call and you can log the message like the connection is successful. Or else you can catch the error and you can log the error and here pass this error object. You can complete this. Next thing, we can export this using module.exports, and this is the DB. We can save it. Fine. So this is about database connection, and what we have done, this is the mongoose module we require to connect with the database, and on this we are calling the connect method. This is the URL and this is the port number and this is the actual database which we are going to connect to, and this is the success message and this is the failure or error we are going to log. Fine. Next thing, like we can create our profile model. For to create the profile model, we require again mongoose, and here we can add the import statement for this. Now we can create one profile schema, and here we can use mongoose dot schema, and we can mention what all things, what all properties we require, and the data type of all those. Like for name, we mention the type as a string. Similar way, we can add two more fields, like one for email and other is for address. We can save it. Now next thing, we need to create one profile object, and here we can mention like it's a mongoose dot model, and here we can mention profile, the actual collection name, and here we can pass the profile schema. This is the model and this is the profile schema. With this it will create the model, and finally we need to import this model like using module.export, and here we can mention it's a profile. We can save it. Fine. So with this we are done with our model part. Now let us add code for route.js. So for routing we require modules like express, and here is the express. Next thing, we require actual product, so we can import it using command using require, and here we can mention the actual model and the actual profile model we need to import. And one more thing we need to do, like here we can mention router, and for router we can use express dot router. Fine, we have imported everything which is needed for router. Now let us implement first the get API on the router, and here we can add the endpoint which is the profiles first. Next we can use async and add callback request and response, and here we can add one try block inside which we can add our logic, and here is a catch block catch block, and it will, we can console.log error in case of error related scenario. If error occurs, we will console this error, and we can set the response as a 500, or you can set the appropriate response status and send the error. Fine. Now here inside try block, we can actually write our get API code, and here it is going to return all the profiles. So we can say it's a profiles, and here we can use await, and we can call profile. So it's not a product, it should be profile. So we can make a change, this one profile it should be, and here profile we can call find method, and as we are going to return all the profiles, we are passing the empty brackets, and we can complete this, and for response we can send this profiles which is returning from this statement, and we can save it. So with this, like, we are done with our get API, which will return all the profiles from the MongoDB database collection. Next thing, like, we can create the post API with which we can create a profile into the database. This is the post, and here we can keep the code as is. Only here we can use create method, because we are inserting the profile, and what need to be inserted, it is the request.body, which is a new object which we want to insert into the database, and here it should return a profile which has been inserted into the database, single profile. We can save it. So with this, like, we are done with our post method. Next thing, like, we can create a patch method which will allow to update the profile into the database. This is the patch method, and here for patch method we need to pass the ID as well along with the actual object. We can mention one constant for ID, and we can retrieve the constant for ID from the request.params.id, and this ID we need to pass it here, but here we need to call the respective method like find by ID and update, because we are going to update, and here we are going to pass the first parameter as an ID. In this ID which we have retrieved from the request params, we are going to pass it here as a first parameter, and second request.body. This is the modified object which is going to be updated into the database, and here is last, we can say it's a new as a true, and we can save it. Now here we can say response.json, and here profile we can pass. So with this, like, we are done with our patch method, which we are going to use for updating the profile. So last method we can add for delete API, and here we again need the ID, and for delete method we can use the respective method for delete API, like it's a find by ID and delete, and here we do not require to pass the body, only ID is enough, and this is the new as a true, and with this we can save it. Now we have added all the APIs. One more thing we need to add, do not forget to export this, and this is the router. Fine, so we have exported this now, so that it will get used in our server.js file. So we have implemented all the APIs which are required CRUD operations for CRUD operations. Now let us add into the server part. So what all things we have added, we need to add it here, like we are going to use the DB, and here we require DB. Inside DB we have db.js. Same way we are going to use routes, and here we require routes, and here this is the routes.js. Next thing, here we are going to use model, which is a profile. Profile is not required because we are going to use it in model. We are going to use the profile in route. Fine, so this much is enough. Now let us, this is the router. Here we need to add one more thing, like our application should use routes, because how, so we are directing our server application to route to the routes.js in case of any endpoints. For all the endpoints it should be directed to the routes.js. Fine, so with this, like we have added all the required things into the server.js, and we have created our backend application along with all the CRUD operations. Now let us test our all the CRUD APIs and all the APIs. Let us create one get method, and here is port. What port we are using? It's a 3000. Same port we are going to use, and here we can select the JSON. Let us hit. Now it is returning as an empty array. Now let us check into the database if we have a data. No, we do not have any data. That means it is as expected because there is no data in the database. Now let us add one entry or one document into the our collection and check. Here we need to pass the JSON body for that document. So let us add one entry it here. We can, so here make sure you are using the post method for adding the document into the collection. Fine, we can see the document is created successfully. If we go to the MongoDB side and check, we can see one document is created as expected inside this profiles collection. Now next thing, like now we can call the get method again. Now we can see there is a the document it is showing which we have just inserted. Now let us add one more record so that we can, let's say it's a Daniel, and here we can say it's a London, and we can add it. We can see the second record is added successfully. We can cross check by calling the get method, and same is added into the database. We can see the record is added successfully. Now we have two records into the database. Now let us check for the patch method. For patch method we are going to use http patch method, and here we can select the JSON. And for patch method, like we need to pass the updated object, like we need to change the existing object, like it's instead of Daniel we can say it's a Kevin, and respective email we can add Kevin, and here instead of London we can add the city New York, and here we need to add the actual ID as well as the input. We can pass it at here so that this object will get updated into the database against this ID. Yes, we can see the second record is updated successfully with name Kevin. Now we can call the get method again. here it should show Kevin instead of Daniel. Yes, it is showing Kevin as expected. Now with this, like, patch method is working fine, so we can cross check into the database. It is reflecting with the Kevin, which is as expected. Now last thing, like, we can check our delete API. For the delete API, we can select the delete HTTP method, and here we can use this URL and JSON we can select, and this is the ID we are passing for delete method as we have mentioned in our routes API. So for updation and deletion we are passing the ID, and for deletion we are just passing the ID, which is enough to delete the record. Fine, so we can see this record has been deleted successfully. Now let us see by calling the get method. Now it is showing only one record because second record we have just deleted. Now let us cross check on the database side. Yes, we can see the record is deleted successfully. So with this, like, we have implemented all the CRUD operations, and we have completed all the things like CRUD operations with Node.js and MongoDB application. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will request you to please like and subscribe the same. Thank you so much for watching this video.